week. And as I said, the aim is, I've given you some code today. The aim is to kind of save some time in class. But again, if you feel that you're not getting it, please let me know, right? I did understand from some students they're still not clear about classes, how to create classes. So we've been doing some classes over the week, over the past few weeks. And I hope at this point of time, you know how to define a class in Java, which is important. So some of you are way ahead and some of you way behind. So I have to kind of form a middleware somewhere that I kind of take care of everybody, right? But if you think you want to learn more, then the onus is on you. You can pick up any topic in Java where you are interested. Let me know, and if I can help, I'll do it in my office hours or outside class hours, right? I can help on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Wednesdays. All 3 days. Monday is my full day. The rest of the week, I only work 4 hours. I mean, officially, I only have to teach for 3 hours. But I'm in college for almost 6, 7, 8 hours sometimes. So take advantage, okay? Okay, so let's look at what we were doing. And as I said, we were working on this class last week, and I just kind of completed it. Nothing else, nothing big in it. So we had already talked about the attributes or the characteristics or the fields of a student object. We had said name was important, so was ID. The program the student is in right now, the courses enrolled, the courses he or she is taking, the credits he or she has, and we had said that a student cannot take more than 10 courses at a time. So our constant, that static belongs to the class, can be shared by all objects of the class. Final is a constant, right? So static is not necessarily means constant. Final means constant. So the final specifier says you cannot change the value of this. We don't call it variable, this named constant in code. That's what constant means. And static simply means belongs to the class. When it belongs to the class, that means all the objects of the class can share it. That's what static means. You can use it with the class name. Student dot maximum number of courses. We had written the constructor. The only change in the constructor that I made from what we did last week, I kind of said credits is equal to 0. Calling the add credit methods with 0 was kind of sounding odd, add credits. The word, if it was set credits, it would be okay. The add credits was just, I don't know, I couldn't digest it. I thought, what am I trying to add? I mean, you can do it. There is nothing wrong in it at all. There's nothing wrong in it at all, but I just kind of chose to do a direct statement here. So it's up to you. If you want to leave that statement, it's no big deal at all. And if you want to use this statement, if it makes more sense to you, I changed it. So entirely, you can do whatever you like. And I mean, it's not wrong at all. It's just that the name of the method was a little odd. And I don't want to do a set because we are adding credits every time. You add credits of a student. You don't set them. You know what I mean? So, I mean, again, you could argue that setting, you can always set it to a new value, and that also works. So it's not a big issue. You decide whatever you want to do. It really doesn't matter. The rest of the methods are sitting where they were. These were all sets and gets and whatever, and that was fine. I kind of added a method for, we already did add course, I think, right? We already did add course. I said you could enroll in a course as long as you had less than 10 courses in which you were enrolled. So that's okay. But I added a drop course method actually to it here. All I said was you can remove a course from your course. You do that, right? You register, and then if you want to remove yourself from a course, you go and remove yourself from a course. You could do an if statement here. You could say if the size is more than 0, then remove it. So like otherwise it makes no sense searching. You could do that. You could add that statement just for it. So you can always say if, and notice how I have used return. The remove method, I must talk about the remove method a little. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of it. There are 2 remove methods in the array list class. One removes by searching the value that I've given here, the string that I've given here, right? I had an array list of strings, so I'm searching for that string. There should be an exact match. 2, I can also remove an element at a particular position. Remember, array list is nothing but a collection, so there are positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till size minus 1. You can do that too. But here, I don't know where the course is, so I don't want to search through it and then remove it. I just say remove it, and it should be removed if it is present there. To be on, I mean, there's nothing wrong in it, but you can always check, is there something in do I have a course enrolled? So you can do something like this. You can say if the course is enrolled. Again, make your code as foolproof as possible. If the size of this is greater than 0, only then it makes sense to remove something. Okay, now what is it saying? What doesn't it like? Oh, now, just so that you know, whenever you add an if statement in a method, it says, I'm not sure whether that if will happen or not happen. So what if it doesn't happen and there is therefore no return statement? That's what it is trying to do. That is what it is trying to say. So what can I do? If I say if it is greater than 0, or okay, let's do this. I can just say return false. Okay, let me tell you why return false. This return method, this remove method of the array list class returns a true or a false. It returns true if it was able to remove it. It returns false if it is not able to remove it. Maybe it was not even present. You're looking for a course Comp1008 and you said com instead of, you missed your M or P or whatever. So you were looking for something, you couldn't remove it, then it will return a false. So now, if whenever you have an if statement and it says, oh, what if this if statement doesn't take place, then what? Where is your return? So I just added a return false, because if this doesn't take place, definitely I can't return a true. I have to return a false. So I just put a return false. You don't have to put an else, because automatically if this doesn't happen, it will come to this state. So notice how I have written return and I have used the Boolean value of the remove method to say back whether the course was dropped or not. You could do this in add also. You could. It's not a big deal at all. Always let the student know if things are happening. So you could do this. You could make its return type Boolean. Right? You could make its return type Boolean. If your course size is less than, you add it. And return what? And return true. Successful enrollment done. Else, what do you do? Return false. Right? Always try to, if your method can do it, if it makes sense, let your method return a true or a false, because then you know, did it happen or did it not happen? It's a good practice. Okay. So where you can and where it makes sense, like were you enrolled in a course, you always get something like you were successfully enrolled in this course. Something like you always get a feedback. So this true and false can be a feedback from the class, and then you can type a message in the main in your application saying it was successful or whatever. So you can do that too. So as soon as you do that, please add this. So add a return statement. Say true if student was successfully enrolled. If not, allows the student to enroll in a course. Else false. Here, so add this. And again, just so that you know what my methods are doing. So you can, for students who are coming in, there is a start student lab class on Blackboard under weekly learning. It's called start student class. We were working on the student class last week. I just made a couple of changes to it, and to save you typing, I kind of gave it to you. And I've given you an incomplete lab class. So as I said, as I was mentioning before, that I'm trying to speed up a little. If you're still kind of behind of how to create classes, I would strongly recommend that you take some extra classes from me or peer tutoring, right? But at this point of time in week 5, you should know how to write classes. I've done quite a bit with you, assuming that you were still not comfortable from your first course. So if I can do it a little more quicker, then I can do maybe something extra. You know what I mean? Okay. Okay, so we just made, after what you download, you can use that straight away. There are 3 Java files. If you want to keep yours, it's up to you. Like, I mean, why it's, as I said, there's hardly any change. All I did was I kind of made this small change in the constructor. I just found this to be more intuitive. And this is the first change we are making, just out of the blue, right? So I said, you can do this. Okay, so in the course, add course, just change it to returning a Boolean value. And then we added a new method called remove course, or drop course, sorry. And in the drop course, if you have a course that you are enrolled in, if you're not enrolled in any course, doesn't make sense even doing anything in this method. Otherwise, it returns false. So now let me talk about the remove method a little. I'm not sure if this was discussed, or are you aware, or if you read it somewhere. The array list has 2 remove methods. One, remove searching on the contents of the array list. An array list can only be a collection of objects, okay? Mine is a string. Or 2, remove from a particular position. They're both safe methods as long as you use them not in a loop like this. You've just removed it. It's fine. What will happen? The size of the list reduces by 1 and all the elements after this element are moved forward, right? That's all internal. We are not aware of what is going on and we don't care because it's not an array, so we don't want to do all this. But that's what happens behind the scenes. Now, the remove method of the array list is not recommended to be used in a loop at all, and it has bugs. It has been proved to have bugs, and therefore a solution was created for it. An iterator class, a class called iterator was created that is used to delete elements from an array list. And I'll tell you what the problem is so that you understand. Okay, suppose I have an array list A, B, A, D, E. They're just strings. I'm writing them very small just because it's easy, right? I have an array list of strings, and I tell you to remove all occurrences of A from it, all occurrences of A. So obviously you will say, oh, I'll use a loop because I want to browse each element of the array list, and I'll check, are you an A, remove it, are you an A, remove it. That's how I'll do it, right? That's how logically you would do it. So you would write a loop like for, I'm just taking a string element, just calling it st from your array list. Let's call it cat names, though they're not names, but names. And you will kind of check. You will check if this st that is coming out is equals method. You can equals, ignore case, not so important, is A. You're trying to delete A, you will say remove from the array list names dot, and you will remove this st or A, really doesn't matter. However you write. That's what you will do. You'll write a for each loop. You will go through all the elements of the names array. If you find an A, you will say, is it A? Yes, remove it. Is it A? Yes, remove it. Looks perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong in the logic at all. But unfortunately, this is what happens. So the first A is removed and the array list kind of moves forward. Now, we don't know, but I'm telling you that's what happens, right? So this A is lost and the array list shifts, its elements shift forward because the size has reduced by 1. Okay. Now your pointer was here, right? Your pointer was at your first position. So kind of see what is happening. You will understand what is happening. So it was at the first position. When it removed it, it went to this position, the second. So this is, let me write the positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There were 6 in all. Okay. So this was the original one. It was removed. The pointer has now moved from 1 to 2 for each. The pointer, 0, but it has moved from the first position to the second. You were not able to even check B at all. B has gone unchecked. Since the array list has shifted, and where is the for each loop pointer shifting? Forward. And where is the array elements shifting? Backwards. What happens is you miss the B. It's not an A, but you missed it, right? So this says, oh, that should not happen. For example, this is okay. It was not an A, so you never noticed it. But now what will happen on this side? When this A gets deleted, this A will move forward and the pointer, the for pointer will move forward. So that A is never deleted at all. So it is not recommended. Not recommending it is incorrect. It is incorrect to use the remove statement, the remove method of the array list in a loop. It is incorrect. You will not get correct results, right? So what do we do then? Otherwise remove is okay. Removing something like this, one value is fine. It finds the first occurrence of it and removes it. Yes.
But it creates a problem only for each loop or the for loop?
For the for loop also. Remember the for says I is equal to 1, whatever. You are moving forward.
You can move it forward
and backward.
It's equal to A.
Yeah, or so you move forward and then you go back and see what. Yeah, but that's too much of nonsense logic, right? Logically you should scan each element. If it is equal to A, you should delete. But the bug is there and it stays. But there is a solution. There is a solution. The iterator class, there is a class called iterator. Sometime maybe in future I'll show you how to use it. But there is a class called iterator. You create an iterator object which browses the array list. So you create an iterator on the array list. Iterator is just its name, iterator, goes through, right? So an iterator object is created. Instead of a for loop, the iterator object jumps from one to the other to the third to the fourth and so on. And you use the remove method of the iterator class to remove them. And it works fine, right? So there is a solution, but just because I'm using the remove method here, I wanted you to understand that it's fine here. It removes the first occurrence. And since I'm okay, I only have a course enrolled once. You can't have to enroll in a course again. Oh, we could do that also. When you're adding a course, you can first search. If the course is already available, you should not be able to add it. See, as you do your applications, you can think of so many more things that can be improved. We can do that also right away, since it has been mentioned. When you're adding a course, you should not be able to enroll in a course in which you already are in. We can do that. I don't know if it happens on banner. Maybe the list doesn't even show it or something. Like when you are already enrolled, maybe it's grayed out. You can't even select it. But here we can always take care of it, our application, right? Since you only have a course once in your list, remove is okay for me. I say remove. I'm not bothered where it is. I'm not bothered. It is the first occurrence that it removes, and there is only one occurrence, so I'm okay with it. But the remove method of the array list should not be used in an array list to remove elements. Just for your information. Okay, now since we've said that add, so this is why. So here it is okay, but just because you've used it, you should be aware of it, how it works. So that's the drop course method I added in the code that I gave you on Blackboard. Yes.
That if statement is not in the drop, in our file.
Yes, it's not in the file. We just added it right away when we were talking. You're right. I just added it after. I said it's a good check. Though if you don't do it and you try to do this, it will just return a false, which is also okay. There is nothing wrong in it. But again, I've always said, you code according to what foolproof. Don't think it may or may not happen. Just say, what if it happens, right? And similarly in add, we didn't take it into account, and I didn't even think of it. As I was just talking about it, I kind of thought of it. Okay, so what should you do here to take care that you don't add a new course again, or you're not allowed to add a new course again? What do you think I should do?
You can iterate through that.
Or just, yeah, or just use the remove method. If it returns a false, add it.
But you
Easier.
need to remove it if it's already there.
No, oh, you're right. Remove also remove. Does remove return you a pointer, or does it remove it? We'll have to check. I think it physically should be removing it, right? So maybe there is a search method or something instead of we going through it, right? So let's see if there is not, then we'll have to do the iteration. I'm sure there should be something, right? It's always before you write something, it's always a good idea to go and see whether there is a method. I'm hoping there will be a method. Something to find out if this is already present.
There was something we last day.
Yeah.
Return the index.
Okay, so let's look at array list. There it is. Let's go through the methods of the array list quickly. So there is an add all, clear, removes all the elements. No. Contains. Oh, we can use contains. We can just use contains. It says returns true if this list contains the specified element. So we'll say it returns a Boolean value. So use it and add it, right? And I'm sure, see here, it returns an iterator. That's what you will use when you use it. Removes the element, removes the first occurrence. Okay, contains is there. Okay, so use that now. Okay, how do we use it? We say if it contains, okay, so let's go if not contains. What's the name of the array list? Courses enrolled. So again, as you find drawbacks or whatever, ideas come into your head, just incorporate them. I didn't think of it. We just talked about it. So if not courses enrolled dot contains, what does it contain? The old course. So if it returns a false, that's what what doesn't it like? Okay, one more and one more and one more. Okay, let's see. What does it happen?
You should search for
Oh, the new course, sorry. New course, not old course. Okay, so if contains not, so contains will be true, not will be false, add it. Yep, that looks okay. In all other cases, return a false. right? So we just added we just used another method contains of the array list class, and we said, are you in there? If you're not in there and you have not yet reached your maximum capacity of course enrollment, join and return a true. In all other cases, return a false. So whether that false was from it was already there or whether you have reached the maximum, you can start being more like, instead of returning boolean, you could return a string, course is full, already contains, something like that. If that works, here it simply says were you enrolled or were you not enrolled, right? But again, nothing stops you from returning a message back. In that case, the return type will become a string, and that string will say, you could return an error code, or you could return a string saying successful or not successful because it was full, something, courses are full, whatever, anything that makes sense. Okay, so that's again a change of from what I gave you, but again, not something big. So you should be aware, array list you definitely have used in your semester 1, but this is the first easiest collection in Java. It is the easiest to use. You have more, so you have hash map, you have tree map. I'll try to do those also, just so that you learn something new, right? Which I don't think you have used. I'll try to do those also with some example. So if you know how to use one, you should be able to use another. But the gist is you should know how to use the classes of Java. So there, we found it, we used it. Okay. And lastly, I completed the toString method just because it was so tedious. Now, something I realized which maybe I didn't even think of the other day, and somebody from the other section pointed out. Remember how I was, if you have your old code, I was using a minus 10s or whatever to move the data towards the left. In text data, if I give you the size, suppose I say 30s, and I try to save Anju in it, there will be 26 blanks in the beginning, and then Anju will come at the end. This is how 30s will work. If I want to move this Anju to the left, that is make it right justified, then I have to say minus 30s, minus 30, minus percentage minus 30s. That's what I'll have to say, right? But for me, it's not being, if I was creating a column with more than 2 columns, I was okay. But here I only have 2 columns. So I'm showing my headings like this, whatever their size be. And then I just want to place the value right here, after it. So there is no sense of using a negative on the second parameter, because if I don't use it, it will automatically start from wherever, from there, where you say print something. So I've removed the minus 10 s's, I've simply replaced them by percentage s's, right? So I think we had a minus 10s. You guys had a minus 10s last week when we were doing it. I was just trying to make it, this is right justified. I was trying to make them left justified, but I don't have to, because there is no third column at all. Automatically, it will start from where I leave it. So that's one change I did. So you already had the student name, the student ID, the program name, the get credits. I added courses enrolled. This was missing. I had said I would show you how to do it, and I've done it in a different way here. But this is another way in which you can just put a percentage s here, and you can use the join method of the string class, which will automatically do this. It will, and this is the delimiter. What do you want to put between the values of your array list? So what have you done? You have taken your get courses enrolled is returning the array list. You have used the join method of the string class. I was able to do it because I have an array list of strings, not with every object. Okay, it was an array list of strings. So I said, okay, array list is one of its parameters, comma is a delimiter. How do you want to separate them? Join will automatically take all the elements of the array list, separate them by commas, and output it, because you've said output it using percentages. So the join method of the string class, which you may not have seen before, you've used the string class many a times. This is how the join method works. It's not a tough method at all. It's always good just to go and look for something if you don't understand it. And again, a student had pointed this out and we said, okay, why not? And it's nice if you can bring up things that necessarily will help other students, why not? It's always good to use extra methods. So the MNOPQRST, there it is, join. So the join says, give me, there are more. this is the one I've used, the easiest, not the easiest one, the one that worked for me. So character sequence basically means, character sequence I think is an interface. Yep, it is an interface. It basically means collection of characters, right? So it says, tell me what is your delimiter? How do you want to join the elements of this collection? And I said, I'll use a comma just because I wanted to put commas. You could have given colon, blank, whatever you like. And then it says, what are your elements? So my elements are nothing but strings, right? Notice how they've given a small example. Join Java is cool with a dash. So it will say Java dash is dash cool. That's what it does. So exactly that's what I've used here in my code. I've said get courses enrolled is a method that is giving you the array list, the whole array list. What is the array list? Collection of strings. And you've said show them with the comma in between. Comma and a blank to make it neater. My job is done. Right? So this is the change from your toString method of last week. The minuses have gone. I've just used a percentage s, just for this reason that I've explained you, because I don't need to create columns in the second one. If there were more, then I would have been careful, but here I'm okay. And I've used the join method to show you this courses that the student is enrolled in. There is another way, and I have put that another way right here for you. You could use a for each loop to access every element of the array list, show it in the format you want. This is shown in a single one per line. That's what I've done. Whatever works for you. But I've used the same thing in the second code, so I've kind of commented it out here. You can try it and just return info. Yes, Parna.
The get courses enrolled, it returns an array list.
An array list.
So that array list
basically a character sequence. Have you ever tried printing out an array list on the screen?
Yes, so it comes between
those square brackets. But here it is smart enough to say it is a collection of strings. To the system, the array list is basically a collection of strings. So it is basically a number of strings. It just picks up one by one and joins them with the comma. It's again a character sequence. A character sequence is an interface which basically says any collection of strings, sequences, character sequences. And it works. I tried it, it worked. I said, makes sense, right? But only because I have an array list of strings. If I had an array list of objects, and if I was trying to get maybe a string out of it, then I would have to do a little more work, but only works on character sequences, right? But it worked, so that was fine enough. So this is what I chose before, because we all know how to use this, a for each loop. And then a student pointed out, why don't you use the join method? And why not, right? Why not? So I've left both of the things here. I've used the join method and it will automatically do it. I'll quickly show you how to create the student object. Open your tester. Let's do it very quickly. Open your tester. What does the student object need? 1, 2. Okay, we'll know what it needs. So open your tester. Your tester is kind of blank, but there is something you can ignore the rest for now. Create a student object. Strange that it's not helping me. It should help me to say what are the arguments. Okay, these are the arguments. Student name. Student ID. Program name. And that's it. Okay, so this is how you create it. Oh, the person doesn't have any credits and all that. What else are we showing? Oh, we'll have to enroll in some courses, right? And now they are returning true and false. And actually, I have this method called true and false already here, except it won't work. So I'll just do a couple of them and I'll ignore the values just for now. Just for now, I'll ignore the true and the false. What was the method called? Oh, we don't have to go back. We can start writing me dot and it will help us. Okay, so let's add a course. And I'm not using the return value just because I'm in a hurry. I'm just showing you how that toString method will work. So I've added a course. I've added another course. Remember, it was just a string. Let me add 2 credits, just so that you can see more data on my output. Let's give 2 credits for this. Okay, so I added a course, I passed the course, and I added 2 credits. Okay, now let me just do a, what is it returning me? toString, right? Okay, let me do a system.out, .println, and oops, and me. Remember, toString is that special method that you can call without saying .toString. You can if you like, but you don't have to. Okay, let's try how it works. Let's see how the tester is. Oh, The Java class has problem, right? The lab class is not yet complete, but I think we should be okay as long as we are not using it in a tester. Let's see. Oh, it says mine is, let's say proceed and see. Okay. Yeah. I just had to do a proceed because I'm not using the lab class, but it is still in my package and it has compilation errors. It's not yet complete. So this is, okay, but that comp is because I did a comp. That's how it looks. That's the join method on the right-hand side, right? So the join method will take your array list and use the delimiter comma, and it's smart enough not to put the comma at the end, which is good. If we started writing it, we'll have to be careful. Are we at the last element? We don't have to put a comma. So it's done for us. See, that's what I said, reuse, one of the major uses of object-oriented programming. So find if you can find something and use it. And then we'll just do it putting commas. This is one way of doing it. This is how I've done it in this one. When I do the lab class, I'll show you how I've shown it line by line. I mean, that's also okay. 10 courses in a line kind of look untidy, but at least, I mean, there's nothing wrong in learning. If you haven't seen it before, then it's nice to know that you can do it. Okay, so there, so it works. That's the toString method that I just completed for you guys. Right, so that's what the join is doing. Is that clear? It's better to see the output to understand what's going on. The rest are simple. Get student name, get student ID, get program name, get credits. They were each returning a single value. I used %s wherever it was a string. I used a %d where it was an integer. And the join method got the array list and showed you the elements with commas. Pranav.
So I tried to just put that get courses enrolled into the system.out line. So it gives you
square brackets?
Yeah,
and square brackets and commas in between, I think, right? Yeah.
So it's the string join method that's actually removing it,
breaking it. Yeah, I think, and maybe the system out println method is adding those square brackets. You know what I mean? Who knows who's doing what, but somebody is doing it. So we don't know whether the println method is putting those extra things, or remember inside it's just random values at positions, string values. All it has to do is browse through it, pick it up, put it, and you are telling it the delimiter. It doesn't know the comma has to be put. If you change the delimiter from comma to exclamation mark, it will just do it. So how it is giving on the screen when we do system out println, I think has nothing to do with the join method or fit it up. Join just picks up one element at a time and using the delimiter that you've said it, spits it on the screen. Right? They could not, there's no relationship as far as I understand. Maybe the system out println, when you tell it to print out a collection, it automatically puts square brackets and separates them by comma. I mean, but join is simply doing what you are telling it to do. It browses through the array list, picks up your delimiter, comma, picks up your delimiter, comma. That's what it is doing. Right? So I don't think there is any connection at all. Right? So that's how it is looking. The toString method, that's how it is working. So the minus will work. There is nothing wrong in the minus, but it is not needed. Because automatically, if you do not give it a space, your system print statements work, how do they work? If you do not tell the space, if you don't format it, it just spits it. And that's what I've said, just spit it. %s because I need a format specifier in string.format. But otherwise, just spit it, right? So the join is new. You can, if you like, you can stop your toString here, just so that it's not a big deal at all. You can stop it here. We'll have to remove the last %s from here, and you will see that they will come in different lines. You can try it out. Okay, even that works. We'll do that in the second lab class. So this student class is now ready. So the toString has been completed by me, which was not there. The get login name we had already discussed last week, right? Remember, we had discussed it last week. We have added the drop course method. Oh, and we'll have to add the comment also. It returns a true if it was deleted. Okay, so it returns a true if course was dropped, was removed, you can say, else a false. That's how you write something that returns a Boolean value. You'll say true in what case and false in what case. So return true if course was removed from the list, else false. So this drop course is new to what we did last week. And we again made a change, I think, today after I gave it to you. We said, do you have a course? Only then remove it. Don't even search for it. Why even search for it, right? You're saving some time. And then the add course, we changed a little. We said, does it already contain? No, then add it. And as long as it is less than 10, so we did a little change there. And in the constructor, I just said credits is equal to 0 instead of calling add credits. That's up to you. That's entirely up to you. My add credits are adding new credits, so I just made it 0. Instead of add, if you had a set, you would change things accordingly. So the student class is ready, right? So I don't know how many of you learned something new in it, but we saw a couple of join, something that maybe you had not used, the contains method if you have not used. All you have to do is go and look up. And if you do not know what to look up, Google searching for element in array list. You will have some hint, of course, right? But all you have to do is go and look up, and you have to form this habit. I told you in Java, there are two things. To create your own classes is, of course, an art. But to use the classes of Java library is a major art too. If it's already there, use it. Okay. Now let's go to the lab class. So before you open it, let's discuss it as to what are the attributes now of a lab class. I've called it lab class just so that it sounds different from a class, which is a reserved word in Java. Though lab class also contains class, but that was the reason. Okay, now let's talk about lab classes. If it was a class we were talking about, like a class, like you are having a class right now, what are the characteristics or the attributes or the instance variables of such a class, of a lab class? What do you think it is recognized by? Think about your class itself. What does it have that kind of tells you that this class is what it is? So what will every lab class have as its attributes or instance variables? There could be many. Let's start with a few. Course, right? There's always a course attached. Course code, course name, or whatever. Instructor, name of the instructor. What else? Room number. Number of students. Definitely students, right? Not only number of students, students. We need a list of students. So major. Time of the day, when it starts, when it ends, day of the week, right? Of course, students, the major thing. What else? Kind of, yeah, maximum capacity maybe, right? There could be a maximum capacity, and then there could be the number of students allowed. But that now, will you make it as a constant, the maximum capacity, or would you make it as an instance variable? Does every lab class have the same maximum capacity? No. So we'll make it as an instance variable, not a constant. We won't, because some rooms have more capacity, or some courses may have more capacity. I'm sure your gen eds have more capacity than our common classes, right? So there will be an instance variable capacity, right? Of course, you cannot enroll more than the capacity. You could enroll less, but not more. So those are the few instance variables that go with the class, with the lab class, right? Right? Everybody has to get it in their head, guys. Unless I get feedback from you, I don't know whether you're getting it or not. Okay. So as I said, talk to me if you like. Write it to me if you think the class is slow or fast. I can make it faster, but unfortunately I can go slower than this, but I can make it faster. So for people who want slower, there are other things we can do, right? We can get help from peer tutoring. I can help you out, but again, the onus is on you. Okay. So what I've done is, again, just so that we can save some time, I've created a class called lab class for you. So this class defines a lab class, right? Its attributes and its methods. You can kind of add it. It's not a big deal. It's just this description doesn't tell you a lot, but there has to be a description of the class, a decent description of the class at the head. Its attributes or characteristics, whatever you would like to call it, whatever makes sense to you. General, right? I'm not saying instance variables. You could, I mean, it really doesn't. And its functionality or methods, as you call it, right? Whatever, doesn't matter. Remember, Java documents are for programmers. Like, even if somebody is using it, that user has to be a programmer. It's not a layman we are talking about. So you can make it a little technical. Okay, so here are my instance variables that we just discussed. I think I almost have everything we discussed. The name of the instructor, string, the course code or name or whatever, I just called it course, a string again, a room number, a string again, capacity and integer, and it's an instance variable and not a constant because every class will have a different capacity. I have just for practice, and just because it is new in Java 8, I have created a start time and end time as local time objects. I could have used a string for it. I could have said starts at 3 p.m. and that's a string, right? And I could have said ends at 4:50, 2 p.m. and 4:50, and that would have been perfect. And there is nothing wrong in it. Times are mostly used where they are really important. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crucial to use time variables. Here, it is fine to maybe it's not even checked whether you're giving something valid, though it will. But anyway, so I chose to use start time and end time as local time objects so that I could just show you a little something extra. How to create an object of this class because it doesn't have a constructor. How do you create an object of such a class? How could you print it out, right? Will percentage S work? How does it show the time? If I want to show PM or AM with it, how will I do that? Things like that. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. So I created start time and end time as local time objects. The day I left as a string, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, though again, there is a enumerated class called day of the week in the same package java.time, but it wasn't very useful. It wasn't giving me anything kind of extra, except one important thing. You could only give Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as its input. That was the only possible enumerated constants, but all in caps and exactly in the same, spelled correctly. So if you would like to use it, I can show you how. I kind of started with that, but it wasn't giving me a lot. And I said, you know what, I'm okay with using it. But there is an advantage. You cannot go beyond the day of the week. You know what I mean? Those are your values. The other option was you could give a value like 1, 2, 3, which is a little odd, but not that tough. 1 is a Monday, 2 is a Tuesday, 3 is a Wednesday, and so on. And it will automatically take it as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday till Sunday. So that was the advantage, that its values were enumerated type, right? You've heard this in your relational database. So enumerated type is basically where you can collect data and say, here, this is all that is allowed. This is an enumerated class because it has data and it also has methods, right? So let's look at it. So if you search for java.time, just because it's easier, package java.time, you will notice that there are some classes and there are some enumerated. And this is the one, so for the time, I'm using the local time. There is a local date time. Those are not of use to me because my dates are not fixed. You know what I'm trying to do? Monday, Tuesday, or whatever. I could have said dates, but then you don't save all the dates in a class. You just say it reoccurs every Thursday at 2 p.m. Okay, so I use this one and I'll show you how to use it when we do. It has some constants. Notice max, midnight, min, and noon can be used as constants for your time. So those are available. And there are, I don't know whether it's an advantage or a disadvantage, but it works with 24-hour clock. Something that humans are not used to, but that's what it is, right? And then it will do the exception handling. If you try to give something beyond 0 and 23, that's not a 24-hour clock. Can't go below 0, cannot go beyond 23. It will throw an exception. So I'll show you how to catch an exception today, maybe. Okay. And also you cannot give a minute less than 0 and more than 59. So it will do that checking for you. So if it works, why not? Okay. So I chose to choose local time and do it. And I did not for day of week because I didn't find anything very useful in terms of its methods. But of course, there is one for sure. So these are the enumerated constants that are defined in the enumerated class. So these are called enums, right? These classes are enums. And there is a month one also. And here are the methods in that you can do a few things with it. Nothing that was kind of useful to me. So I kind of left it alone, right? The advantage is for sure there that you can only use Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's the days you can use, which is a big advantage in itself. So we can change it if we like, but I said at least let me show you one at a time maybe. Okay, and if time permits, we'll change the day to day of week, the string of the day to day of week, and we can do it. No big job. Okay, so again, just because java.time is a new package in Java 8, and it's all full of all this dates and times and all that, why not? Okay, so just this is a very useless constructor right now, but it's useful when you're testing something. Then you don't have to kind of give in all the values. You can create an empty object and use the set method to set what you want and kind of work away with it. And when everything is fine, you can remove the empty constructor. So I just left this constructor here so that we could test on this class very quickly, because its own constructor requires quite a bit of parameters, right? Because there is an instructor name to be set, a course to be set, the room number, the capacity, the start time, the end time, and the day. Since there were so many settings going on in it, I kind of said, let me put an empty constructor. So this is just for the heck of it for now. If we need it afterwards, I'll put Java doc comments for it. Otherwise, we'll leave it. So this is my constructor: set instructor name, set course, set room number, set capacity, set start time. Please understand that the time that is also coming as parameters to you are local time objects. So your tester will have to create a local time object and pass it to the constructor. Or the other option is you pass the hours and the minutes from there. That's the minimum. You could go hours, minutes, seconds. You could go hours, minutes, seconds, nanoseconds. We don't want to do that. We are okay with hours and minutes. Or you could pass those two as integers, and you could create the local time, whatever. Wherever we do it, we will be doing some kind of exception handling. And very necessary. I hope you know what I'm doing here. There are no students in the class to start with, but since students is an array list of students, we said we need students in a class, right? And how did I define it? How did I declare it? There is a difference. I'm not sure if you paid attention. That was the last most important collection of my lab class, the students in the class. It is an array list. Array list will do fine for me. Of course, it is dynamic in nature. You can add and remove students. And also you should not be able to go beyond the capacity. So we'll do all that when we add a student or whatever, right? That's where we will need it. Maybe you can even drop, let's see, is drop something that should come in a lab class, or is drop, the student class is dropping a course, but there should be some relation which we are not making there. We could add a method. But here we'll definitely add a student to a class. We should be able to delete a student also from a class. So we'll add that method also. So that's the array list. Now tell me something. Again, maybe you have paid attention to it or not. This at line number 22 is just a declaration. You're not asking for space or anything, right? When an object is created of this class called lab class, this is what happens. Instructor name is null. If it is the empty constructor, you're doing nothing by default. Instructor name, course, room number, start time, end time, day, and students are all initialized to null, and the capacity is initialized to 0. Those are its default values if you do not give it a value. Now definitely those are the default values in my empty constructor, right? As I said, it's just for me for testing purposes. But what will you do? Yeah.
Is it important to write empty constructor or not?
Not necessary. No. Every class may or may not have an empty constructor.
Just to show it?
No, when I test it, when I write something in the tester, this will do my job quickly. I can simply say lab class L1 is equal to new lab class, just to show you something, right? It's easy. Once its job is done, when I'm going to write a full-fledged tester, then I won't need it. So therefore, it's just sitting there. It won't be useful, I think. You can always create it, and then you can use the set methods afterwards. You can do that. Nothing stops you, right? But in this empty constructor also, one statement definitely is necessary, that you ask for space for your array list. Otherwise, you won't be able to add any students. So very important to understand. In a string, we don't bother. String is also initialized to null. It is an object. But when we pass a parameter name and we assign it, the work is done. It automatically creates a new string and puts that string into it. With an array list, you have to be very careful. And array list is initialized to null. When you try to add an element, there are two different things. Giving a value to a null string variable is okay. It will assign the value. But adding an element to a null array list will give you a runtime exception, null pointer exception. Why? Because the list does not exist. So declaring it in the instance variables is just a declaration. You're saying, I will need it. You have to ask for space for it in the constructor. And how do you do it? What do? You create an object. And how many do you get? By default, you get 10. You get a box of 10 in which you can save student objects. So you get 10 boxes, each box capable of saving a student object. That's what has happened. Don't forget this statement ever in any constructor that you write, not even in the empty one. My empty one, as I said, is just here because I need it for showing something to you. Maybe I don't even need it. But you cannot add an element to an array list till you have initialized it, or in programming, say language, defined it. You are defining an array list in the constructor. So declaration is one thing. You could have done a new here itself, but Java is not, it's not the norm in Java to do new here. It's not the norm. We don't do it here. It's just not how it is done in Java. There's nothing wrong in it, but that's not how we do it. I think we do it a lot in C++ and other languages we do, but you will never almost see it here. You will see it in the constructor. So that's line number 2 is a declaration. Line number 53 is a definition. You cannot add an element to an array list till you have created the object. So you were okay with strings till now. You never said new string. It was null, but in the set name method, if you assigned it a value, it was fine, because remember, strings are special objects. They're special objects. You don't need to do a new string. To a string object, you can simply do this. It is allowed. A string object name can straight be allowed something like your name. It's valid. You never do it new. Though there is a difference. I'm not sure how many of you know the difference between when you assign it or when you do a new. There are two different things. In one, you get space from a common pool, and in the other, you get space from not the common pool. It's like a memory thing, not like any other object. But this you can do. Can you do this in an array list? No. So strings are just special kind of objects. Just because it is almost a data type, you can do it. So if we don't bother, if it is null, it is fine. Doesn't matter. We don't add something to a string. We initialize it to a value somewhere in our code. But this is very important. If line 53 is missing in your code, you are going to get runtime exceptions if you try to add to an array. So don't forget this statement in a constructor if your class has an array list or any other collection. Okay. Okay. Having said that, the rest are kind of okay. Set instructor name, set course, set room number, set capacity, set start time, set end time, and set day. They're all just normal set methods. And the set methods are written right here as if they were just normal. Take the instructor name, assign it to the instructor name. Take the course, assign it to the course of the object. Take the room number, assign it. Take the local time. Again, it's an object that is coming. I'll show you how to pass it a value in a minute. Okay, I'll show it in tester. Assign it to your start time. Assign it to your end time. The maximum capacity. Let's write this. Let's set the maximum capacity. How do you set? What extra do we need to check? Shall I simply say capacity is equal to capacity? Will this work, or there is something extra I should be doing? Is that more than enough in the set method, or is there something else I must be doing before I set it? What error checking should be done?
That capacity is not equal to 0.
Is greater than 0, right? Not equal to 0 doesn't mean, so it is not less than 0 or equal to 0. It should not be negative, in other words, right? So put an if statement here, because it makes no sense that you're trying to set a negative capacity or a 0 capacity. So you can go greater than 0 if you like. So if the capacity is greater than 0, set it. Else leave it at 0 or whatever its previous values. So don't forget to do this. That's why I hadn't written the set method. The rest set methods are simple. The day of the week, as I said, for now I've taken it as a string, but maybe you can change it to day of week and kind of work around it. Let's see how much time we have at the end of the class. Okay. The set day is just a string right now. The get methods as simple as get instructor name, get room number, get the course, get the start time, which I would like you to change, get the end time, get the day, and get the capacity. Get number of students enrolled will come back. Okay, let's do that because that's easy. How do I find out how many students are enrolled in my class? If I want to find out the number of students enrolled in this lab class, how do I find it out? What gives me? The length of the array list. What is the method that is available that gives you the length of the array list? size. So what should you be returning here? Return, what is that array list called? Students, right? Dot size. There. Again, just because you were using a method of the array list class. So you return the size. Don't start writing a for each loop or a for loop and count on your own. Don't do it. Why should you? The size method is available. It tells you how many. Remember, there are two different things. How many students are enrolled is different from the capacity of the class. There are two different things. Capacity is the maximum capacity. That's what capacity means, right? These are the number of students. So this tells you how many are enrolled. And this returns you the whole array list, right? So what should you be returning here? The students. Right? Now, two more important methods. To enroll a student in a class, and to remove a student from the class, right? I didn't think about removing, therefore its code is not here, but we can add it, right? And then the toString method is just printing. We look at it afterwards. Okay, how do you enroll? Which method do we use of the array list class to add a student to the array list? The method is called, come on girls at the back, Gagan, what method do I use of the array list class to add something to an array list? Not aware? Mandeep, what about you? Manpreet, no. Manpreet? Mandeep, okay, I was right. What is the name of the method of the array list? No? Try? You've used array list in your semester 1? And no? Yeah. It's the simplest one to use. Anybody else? The add method, right? It's such an easy method. It's add. It is the add method. So how do you do it? Do you simply say students dot add and the work is done? What are we adding? The student object. How can we add a student object? Because it is an array list of student objects. Should I be doing any error checking before I do this?
Checking the capacity.
Capacity.
Student name also,
Could be.
if it's already there.
Student names could be duplicate, maybe ID. Two students could have the same name. The chances are less that the whole complete name will be same, but could be, right? So student ID. We can always say, does it contain, right? We can do that. So two things. I mean, you don't add a student again to a class. So you can get the student ID, check it, and if not, then add. And two, cannot go beyond the capacity of the class. Okay, so two things to be checked. Okay, so let's do that. And again, it's returning a Boolean value, so we have to be careful about that too. Okay, so let's check. If, how do I get the ID of the student object who wants to be added to the course?
We use the method of student class.
Exactly. You have an object called student, use its get ID method, check the ID whether it is present in this, oh, these are student objects. Here we'll have to use a loop. Here we'll have to use a loop, right? Unless the whole student object is coming to me, and you can always check the whole student object also. You can always check the whole student object. It will do everything on its own, names and IDs and everything. As long as they are not, they are different in something, it will add it. Okay, so at least let's do that. Okay, so if not, your students dot contains this student, the one that we've sent, the local one. They're not yet done, right? Let's begin and let's send. Oops, okay. What should you do? Your next if. You don't need them actually, but I'm just kind of so that it's easy for you. So if not contains the student, you know what we can do? Something that will take care of unique student IDs. When you create a student object, don't create a student object with the same ID. We didn't check it. We just said give the ID and do it. Like in real life, you don't create a student with the same ID. The rest of the things can be same, but the student ID has to be different. Though we were also discussing that maybe the student ID is automatically generated by the system. So it will always be unique, right? So assuming that there is some uniqueness in the ID, because that's a valid assumption, let's do it. Okay, so if the size of the students is less than the capacity. Less than, equal to, no, less than the capacity. We are okay? What should you do? We are okay to add? We are okay to add. Oh, plus we also have to return a Boolean value. So we'll again need this. We are okay to add. And we will also return a value called, the Boolean value, true. Right? In all other cases. So if this braces were not required for your information, because there is only an if inside the if. If it is assumed to be a single statement, it's one statement. Else we will always return a false. It always needs a return statement. It has to know what to return. Whenever there is an if, it will always say, what if it doesn't happen? It doesn't have an, so you have to provide an else, and this is like an else for us. It is like an else. Though we don't write it, we don't say else, because if none of this happens, it will ultimately come to this statement, which automatically becomes the else, right? So if the students array list does not contain this student already in the list, we will add the student to the list. Now let's remove a student from the list. It's like removing him from banner. Though that happens automatically, we don't do it. We don't do anything of that sort, but let's put it in this method. Okay, so let's do that then. So this method, are we done with true? If the student was enrolled successfully, else false. Okay, so that's complete, right? So enroll student, again, I've left those methods that need a little bit of maybe understanding. The rest were just getting in settles. So hopefully you're all okay with it. Okay, now let's write the method that we were talking about. Instead of remove, what can we say? Remove a student from the class is kind of a little withdraw, but that we are withdrawing it. Okay, so you're better. That's definitely a better word. Usually the student withdraws, so it's not the lab class removing it. It's withdraw always comes from the other side, right? Okay, we'll use remove. I'll have to look for a better word. So definitely the student to be removed, the object has to be given, right? Let's call it student again. You can always maybe only provide the ID and then search it and remove it. You can do that too. And you know what? It's not so tough. We can still use the remove method. Of what we are searching, we can get the ID. Of what you are giving me, we get the ID and we remove it. Do you want to try that just for the heck of it? Just so that you know it. Let's do that. So let's take student ID as the input parameter. The ID of the student. I mean, it's not a big deal, but usually in adding, you give all the information, but in removing, only the ID is enough. If you want to return a Boolean value, let's do that too. So do an at return. True. If the student was removed from the lab class, else false. Maybe there will be an assignment only on writing Java doc comments. And all I'll check is your doc file. And then it's easy for me, right? But it is something that you have to develop. Writing Java doc comments is something you have to develop. I know it's a lot of work, but it's a necessary evil. Okay, so let's try. So this method removes. So we said it is returning a Boolean value. So the return type will be Boolean. We can say remove student if you like. It takes an ID. The ID, remember, was of type string. We're getting this information of ID from the student class. I know it was a string. Okay, now what do? We can simply say just remove it, but we'll have to first see if it contains it, right? Okay, so this is there are various ways of doing it. I'm trying to do it in the easiest way with reusing what I already have in the class. I mean, there are other ways of doing it. Okay, so what should I do? I have the student ID. I have the student array list. I think I need a loop, right? Any method?
You can like check for the ID.
Yeah, but checking for the ID means browsing every element of the student's array list.
You said you get an index with
Yeah,
ID.
yeah, but
You
yeah,
use that index.
but I have to do a search. The contains will not work. The contains method will not work. Contains always searches for the whole object. Okay, whatever it is, right? Okay, so let's go. Let's start with the for each loop. Take a student object out of your students list. Okay, so what do you have to do? You have to check if. Oh, do you want to save this in an integer, the index? Local variables are not initialized to anything by default. If you don't initialize them, then they have garbage. If what is coming out, his or her ID, get student ID, is that's a string. We'll have to use the equals method. You cannot use the two equal signs when you're comparing objects. The two equal signs can only be used when you're comparing basic data types. Everywhere else you use the equals. And I would actually tell you to use equal ignore case method just in case that your student ID has characters also. We are just assuming they're numbers, but they could be characters also. Okay, what are you trying to compare it with? The student ID. Okay, now let's look at this statement. What have I done? I have said, get the student ID of the present student. One at a time is coming out of your array list. Compare it with what you have said you want to delete, right? So notice if the number of brackets are okay. I think we are one less, aren't we? Yes, the if is missing. If this is, if no, how many? 1, 2, that's done. Yeah, we are good. We are good. If that's the case, if you find it, what should you do of the position? What should you do of the position? You should,
We don't need that, right?
with the if?
Yeah.
Oh, with the inside the if. Yeah, we need only one. Oh, now I'm again stuck on something. This is a for each loop I'm using. I'm better off using a for loop. Or let's start this. Why don't we go with this? We'll start with, no, we can't even do that. Oh, we can start with -1. We can increment the position. No, we cannot. Okay, give me a minute. Start with -1. Okay. If you find it, oh no, we'll have to go something else. Okay. I'm trying to avoid using a for loop, that's all. I still want to use a for each loop because I can go with this. Okay, so start with the -1, start doing it, comes to 0. If you find it, that's okay. We'll have to use a break statement, and break statements are never recommended. Break statements, do you know why break statements are not recommended in code? There's a reason. Go to less programming was rule number 1 of programming. In the old days of programming, there was a statement called go to, right? Where you could say go to and you could go to a different line. You could say go to and you could go to whatever lines. And it was a mess because 1, the program was top to bottom, and 2, if you kept dancing with go to statements, the whole program was a mess. Like, because for human beings, it was so tough to understand. So it was proved that go-to programming was really poor, and the standard was do not use go-tos, and programmers stopped using go-tos, right? And then came along languages like Java and C++ that came back with a break statement. And the break statement in a way is saying, go to the end of the loop or come out of the loop. You know what I mean? So somewhere it is okay. Break just means going nowhere, finishing the loop. If you kind of think it that way, break the loop. But if you have nested loops and you're trying to break and break and break, then it creates a big problem. And it is highly recommended that you do not use break statements because they are siblings of the go-to statements that have been proved to be so confusing from old days of programming. Okay, so what am I trying to do here is this. I initialize a position variable int to -1. I start scanning my array list. I increment it up by 1. So now I'm at the 0th element. If I find that it is equal, I just break out of the loop. I just break out of the loop. So when I come out of this loop, the position tells me where that element is present. So if the position is -1, I couldn't find it, else I found it. Think of it again. I start with -1, right? And now I start asking questions. So I ask Ty the question, are you it, kind of? Are you the person? So I start with -1 and I go to Ty and I increase it up by 0. Oh, so it has gone up by 0. Yeah. If I find it, I break. Oh, it has gone to 0. In the first position, okay, but if it goes to 0, I still have to go through all. So it will keep on increasing and increasing and increasing. When I come out of the loop, the position has already changed. It will change because it's acting like a counter, right? It's acting like a counter. So it will not say that the position has left at, yeah, I can do this, actually. Why don't I do this? Why do I do this here? Why don't I first check it? If I get it, okay, I think this will work better. Let's see if this logic will work. So position -1, oh no. Yeah, we will have to use two variables.
We can also use, like, if it founds it, we can just get the index of that S in the student.
Yeah, but how do you get the index of an S with a for each loop?
Like, only if it finds it.
Yeah, but how do you extract the index with the for each loop? You'll have to use a for loop.
Students dot contains in the brackets S.
Yeah, but that's just contains yes or no.
Yeah, but there should be a method for
Finding I doubt. I don't remember it off my head, but we can see. The only way is a for loop. I was avoiding the for loop, to be very truthful. Let's see, is there a... Is it only finding it on this page, maybe? Array list is in java.utils, right? MNOPQRST. I don't know why it's not doing it. Okay, maybe let's try to find find it on this page maybe. Okay, so what was it? Java.util. I mean, I can do it with the
index of it.
Oh, there is an index of? Okay, let's try to do a search again on array list. Oh, okay, that will be handy then. Index of is empty iterator I. Index of returns the index of the first occurrence of the specified element in this list. Oh, it looks for that. It looks for that element. See? So we are not searching by element at all. We are searching by ID. Yeah, we are searching for ID. Oh, well, all my. Okay, guys, here, use a normal for loop. What else can you do? Okay, start with an index. Initialize it to 0.
Even if it searches for the whole object, the S is now a student object.
So you're basically saying contains and then?
Yes, the student object.
But remember, what's coming to me is a student ID. It's not, I'm not passing the whole object.
But we get by using that first deep loop.
By using this.
Yes,
Oh, you get the whole, oh, you're saying S and then getting the position. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying if you got it, you've got it, right? So if you've got it, then all you have to do is, to your position variable, you have to student dot index of index of yes. Yep, you're right. And we can break. Yep, that's a smart one. Now, if it is -1, it was not found. If it was any other value, it was found. So that way we can now do it, right? Make sense? So, okay. So I took a variable and I initialized it to -1. -1 cannot be in an array list. Remember, array list starts from 0. -1 means nothing, like a Boolean variable, not found. Okay. Then I use a for each loop and I start searching. If the ID of the student is equal to the ID I've given, I get its position. I get its index of. Index of means the position. I save it in position and I break. So who are you and who are you? And there you are. Okay. So now what? If the position is not equal to -1, right? If the position is not equal to -1 means what? You got it. All you have to do is remove it. Oh, now the remove at index, right? There is a remove index and there is a remove object. I thought it was called remove at. Seems like it's called remove. Okay. Are we returning booleans? Okay, we are returning booleans. So we'll have to put a opening bracket here. We were able to remove it. Return a true. We'll have to write an else here. Oh no, we still need to return false anyway. So we are okay. Here I'll put it on a different line so that you can see clearly. There. So my aim was not to write any of my methods and let ArrayList do all its work. And that's what we have done at the end. So we are trying to remove a student based on his or her ID. Okay, so this is what we did. We started with a local variable, set it to -1. We searched for that ID in the array list. If we found it, we took the index of that element and saved it in the position, and we came out of the loop. Break will bring you out of the loop. So this is not like a go to, this is basically break the loop, which is okay, right? For now, I'm saying it's okay because I'm using it not from the go to point of view. If the position is not equal to -1, that means I was able to find it, remove it. Remove the element at that position. Position is an integer, remove it. You have a method that can take the position and return true. In all other cases, return false.
We can also remove the student there before the break statement.
Before the break statement. And return true.
Yes. And then just break.
Yep, you're right. Why not? Will save us more code. Pranav has another idea. He says, what will you do with? The only thing is, it is at that. And I am in a for loop. Yeah, but we are only removing one instance. Yeah, we can even do that. We can try actually. We can try that if that works, right? Okay, so here, better. You don't even need position. That's what all programming is about, guys. You don't even need it. If you have found it, just remove it. Why even bother? And remember, we are safe because this is not a for loop that is going on. We are basically finishing the loop here itself. We are getting out of it. Here, return true means get out. Better, much better. Reduces code. No need to use the break statement even. So you have the ID, go through the array list, check for the ID. If you find it, remove the element right there from students and return true. Job done. We don't even have to break. We don't have to use position, nothing. Because return is helping us. The return type is Boolean. That's coming to our advantage. Now we can simply say return true. Job done, return true. And if it doesn't do any of this, it will ultimately return false. So we will double check that it works. Definitely we'll have to check that it works, right? So we'll have to do that. You always have to test your methods anyway. But if I can test them quickly here, actually there is where BlueJ comes very handy. In BlueJ, it's a very simple integrated environment, not very only for education purposes. But you can create classes, you can create objects right on the object bench. You can do a right click and call methods and quickly check whatever works or does not. It's really simple, very, very simple, right? So we'll do that. We can, I mean, it's not a big thing. So that takes care of the remove, something that was not added before, but there it is. And lastly, again, just more how it looks kind of stuff is your get instructor name, get course, get room number, from where did this plus come? Get room number, get day, get start time, get end time are working with percentages. So we are okay. right? But I want to do something about get start time and get end time before I finish. Get capacity, get number of students enrolled. And here I've shown the class list as students in different lines. Just because there are maybe 30 students in my class, I don't want to show them using the join. I could. In that case, all I need, I'm only showing names anyway. What am I showing? I'm only showing names anyway, and names are strings. I could have done it using the string.join. In this one, I just chose to write it a different way so that you could see even this was correct. So I'm just showing the names. If you wanted to show names and IDs, you could do it. You can show both the things, name and ID. It's not a big job at all. We'll just have to put another percentage here and then do it. So you can show the get student name and the get student ID. So this is a for each loop, which is doing it one line at a time. Now, this is what I want you to do before you leave this method. Try it. I want you to write the get start time and the get return time, end time, giving back a formatted time, like add AM or PM to it. And by default, times are stored in 24 hours. So if I'm storing something like 3 p.m. or 2 p.m., it will be stored as 1400. So you have the hour, you have the minute. I would like you to return the get methods to return the time in a formatted by adding AMs or PMs. Do that. Take that time to do it. Do it yourself. I want you to do it. Let's see how many of you can do it. Do you want to do it as an in class? I can give marks for it. Now, how will you find out what works is simply this. You will go to java.time. Do you want me to show you some things before so that... Oh. Okay, now let me try once more. Java.time here. I'm using the local time class. If you want to get the hour, you can always get the hour of your time. Gets the hour of the day field. You want to get minutes, but we are only interested in hour. So get hour returns the hour. Now in a 24-hour clock, 0 to 11, less than 12 is AM, more than 12 is PM. That's all you have to do. Right? So try to complete those methods. How many? 1, 2, 3. Let's take it as an in class. It should not take more than 10-15 minutes. Let me give you 15 minutes. So go to the code I've given you. Go to your get time methods. Get start time. There's the same code. You just have to repeat. I would like you to return the word PM or AM with it. And of course, then it won't come as a local time. What will be the return type? String. So make changes to these two methods. Make changes to their comments. Instead of saying the start time, you can say the start time of the lab class as a string, you could say, or whatever. Or with PM or AM, you can say with PM, AM. I mean, there will be nothing with an, oh, of course, there will be something with an AM also. So change it. Change the, and see, this is one place where you are changing the get method. It is being used in toString also. It will be used in your code also or whatever. I mean, and if you say, no, I don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine. Maybe your application doesn't need to do it, but so now change this. You have the time. Your time is called start time. You have a method called get hour. You know when it is AM and you know what is PM. Concatenate the word AM and PM and return it. That's it. That's all you have to do. Go ahead. 15 minutes is more than enough. That's the limit. It's 3:30. On Blackboard? How lazy can you get, guys? Okay, give me a minute. Do we still have, yeah, we do have errors still because we are not yet done, right? Okay, so with the errors, okay? Did I have Blackboard open somewhere? Nope. Okay, there you go then. Give me 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm uploading the files in the same folder that you had before. And I'm just giving you what we did now in class, okay? And once we are finished, then I'll give you everything again. So this is our class examples Thursday. Let me do it, let me refresh it, and then you do it, okay? Start student class. So we changed the student.java. Okay, now I just have to go to somewhere else. Intro to Java, not in my personal practice now. This is Thursday, right? There you are. I'm now working on the Blackboard one. And student. I hope I'm doing the right file. Student in student. Okay. Lab class in lab class. And tester in tester. Though the tester again, did we make any changes in the tester? Okay, let's just do it. Let me do a refresh and then you do it, okay? Okay, go ahead and take them. Comp examples, class examples Thursday. Start student lab class still, whatever we've done in class. Double check for me, please. I've refreshed it. You do it and let me also do it. And then anybody who matches, let me know and you'll get your marks. So this is a regular in-class assignment, maybe not worth 5%, maybe only worth 1% or 2%, but it's an in-class assignment. So please do it individually. That's what is important. And once you're done, let me know. And I'll jot down your names. So sometimes in classes may just come up like this, small ones, okay? Sorry?
I don't find it.
You don't find?
Yeah.
You don't find what?
I don't find that it's
That's Blackboard. If you're using the same Blackboard, you should have it. Was it under weekly learning?
Oh,
Weekly
weekly
learning.
learning. Okay.
Weekly learning, and then Thursday. You see Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, now go into Thursday. Start student lab class.
Oh,
Okay. Are they the most recent ones? Anybody who's downloaded? Most recent? Okay, okay, good. Okay, so you completed and can I do this and it won't show you what's coming? Okay, let me also do it, right? And then we can match. Get hour is what gets it, okay? You can use a ternary operator, guys. You can use a ternary operator if you want. It's an if else. It's up to you. I'm just giving a hint. Anything greater than 12 or oh, we have to add PM to it, right? So get hour is available. Minus hours. To string.